So this is one of the things I was talking about that I find most interesting about Plato. The thing Socrates is saying here is true of modern day civilization. Not always, not everybody, not each individual person, but a lot of people. I had a friend of mine who worked at a strip club, and she knew a woman there who was like a pretty serious like bodybuilder. Like she was a stripper, but she was like a very intense bodybuilder. And she did something. She used to do this thing. There's like a stripper pole, right? And she used to put both hands on the pole and lift her legs up off the. She could hold herself off the ground. So her arms are on the pole, both like this, vertical, and she could hold her feet off the ground completely and like walk around the pole with just her hands. It's like that shows incredible amount of upper body strength. And my friend was saying that she did it at the strip club a couple of times, and then she stopped. And you know why she stopped? It's because men didn't want lap dances from somebody that could do that because they were intimidated by the strength. Socrates' point is that people in love want the people they're with to be weaker, to not be knowledgeable, and to because they're more either easier to control. Younger people often don't know as much as older people, and so one of the things that men find very attractive is young women. Um, and I hate to do this. This is slightly more advanced and is a larger cultural issue, but in the history of sort of romance, um, and with your people listing off desirable qualities, men listing off desirable qualities in women, if we're going to go back 100, 200, 300, 400, 600, 800 years, virginity is a big one. That's very, very important. Well, why is that? Well, a lot of people will tell you that virgins are holy and that they're special and that the woman is pure and that the blah, 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 blah. But the truth is I think Socrates is onto something here. Um, it's lack of sexual knowledge. Virgins have less knowledge about sex and are therefore easier to control. It's easier to tell someone who has never had sex that whatever you're doing is completely normal and healthy when it might not be. They're easier to control. And this is something that goes back hundreds of years and is enshrined in multiple religious traditions and multiple cultural histories. But it's worth pointing out, it has to do with the disempowerment of women. Do you see how I did like a whole None of this is I mean, it is exactly what Socrates is talking about, but he predates all of this stuff, right? This is ancient shit. So he's not thinking about the 19th century in England or, various other countries and parts of the world. But do you see that you can write a paper about this and that you can add this kind of information in? So something you should consider in the discussion board is questions exactly like this. Can you think of examples of where men like to keep women controlled? In various ways, right? And I mean, it's 100 things. We could do this all day. Like men, like my pants fit my wallet and my iPhone. A lot of women's clothing doesn't have pockets, so that it's hard for women to carry things comfortably. That weakens them if you don't have your shit on you. Also, shoes for men are much more comfortable than a lot of sort of sexy shoes for women. High heels are very difficult to run away from somebody in. Huh. Isn't that interesting that the clothing that a lot of men like women to wear also happens to make them easier to chase? Like, oh my God. This is why I like Plato, because Plato brings up things that are still relevant today, even though it's 2,500 years old, and I quite like it. I think the next sentence of this is going to get us into a whole thing. So I'm going to do this real quick. I think the next sentence will. You may have noticed something happening in this book so far. You may not have noticed it because this is a lot of stuff to do, but I think we're going to have a pretty tough conversation next. So we'll see how it goes. Let's take a look and see if the next sentence is the one that I'm thinking of. Okay. All right, now to him who has a mind diseased, should be diseased, anything is agreeable which is not opposed to him, but that which is equal or superior is hateful to him, and therefore the lover will not brook any superiority or equality on the part of his lover. He doesn't want the person he's in love with to be superior or equal. He wants him to be weaker. He is always, here, this is the sentence, he is always employed in reducing him to inferiority, right? When you're in love with somebody, you want them to be inferior to you. Is what Socrates says. Socrates says this is why people in love are dangerous, because they want the people they're in love with to be weak and easy to control. It's a complicated question. It's a difficult question. But we've hit a key sentence. It's a sentence that just happens to randomly be on page 6, but it exposes something that I think I can't keep teaching without ignoring. And I like to get this far into the semester. It's better when I have you in person and I can build a sense of trust and talk about difficult issues and complicated things. So we will take a look at this. So let me see this sentence one more time. He is always employed in reducing him to inferiority. So there it is. Ancient Greece is a different place and time than modern day America. And they did things a little bit differently. Their culture was a little different than ours is. You may have picked up on this in the last 5 pages. There are some parts where you may have been reading and you got a little confused by the pronouns and you were like, wait a minute, who's in love with who? What's going on? Who is this guy? Ancient Greece was built heavily on sexual relationships between men. Now, your instinct is you're going to say to yourself, oh, this is about gay people. It's not. It's not. Because the concept of gay people is a modern day concept. You cannot take you have an idea in your mind about gay people, about queer people and gay people and same-sex attraction, same-sex love. You have an idea about that. You cannot take that idea and bring it all the way back to ancient Greece. It will not work, and I'll tell you why. When it depends on what you mean. Again, remember Socrates? He said you had to define your terms. If we define, say, gay men, if we're going to define gayness as men having sex with men, then you're absolutely right. It's the same thing. Men had sex with men in ancient Greece and men had sex with men in modern day America. And if that's your definition of gay, then I guess it's the same in both cultures. But that's actually not really what we mean by gay in modern day America. What we mean by gay in modern day America is a person who exclusively or primarily has sex. A man who a gay man is someone who exclusively or primarily has sex with other men for his life. And he may be married to a man and they may have a whole life together. That's not how they did it in ancient Greece. In ancient Greece, they did it, and this is tricky. In ancient Greece, what they had a system set up that is in many ways, so this is a lot to take in. And this is one of the reasons I probably shouldn't be teaching this, but it's complicated and I like Plato and I want to teach it, even though it includes these difficult conversations. But actually, I like difficult conversations. And what the hell is the point of going to college if you're not getting difficult conversations? So the way things worked in ancient Greece, actually, you know what? Not enough time left on this video. I'm going to pick this up in the next video and I'll talk about it there because it's a little tricky and complicated and I don't want to say something and then get cut off. So we'll pick up talking about the sexual practices of ancient Greece in the next video.